Dear learners, greetings to all. This tutorial is prepared to help learner understanding about chapter 2, management yesterday and today, or we can say historical development of management theories and practices. This chapter discussion is divided into two parts. Here is the discussion about part 1. In part 1, we will discuss about early management, like historical background of the management, classical approach at the next, and classical approach divided by two parts, scientific management and general administrative theory. There is another two consideration about administrative theory like Fayol's 14th principle and Max Weber's bureaucracy. At the later section, later tutorial, we will discuss about part 2 like a behavioral approach, quantitative approach and contemporary approach. Now, historical background. Historical background or historical development of management theories and practices we will discuss here. From early management practices like 3000 BC to 1700 century, there was informal management practices. You will see about some significant development of early management in this tutorial. In the next, the explanation will be given. See, this is the pyramid that was built in ancient Egypt. The discussion early management histories started with ancient management practices to build pyramid in Egypt. It's a huge construction building that was built at ancient period when there was no formal management practices. There was no written management, but people built this unbelievable structure. So how people did this? Obviously there was planning, controlling, monitoring and leading. Chinese Great Wall also an example of unbelievable structure in the world. This structure also prepared when there was no written management practices that exist right now. So how all this happened? Is it without management? The answer is no. Obviously, there was management. Formal management concept started at 1700th century when renowned researcher Adam Smith published the breaking theory of division of labor at his publication named as The Wealth of the Nation in 1776. He advocates about division of labor to increase the productivity of the workers. Later on, management concept started to get more concentration at academy when industrial revolution occurred during the late 1800th century. At the time, after innovation of steam engine, machine power replaced the human labor, and manufacturing operations created the large organization. Manufacturer realized that formal management is highly essential to manage these types of huge industrial production and the worker. They realized that scientific and structural planning, organizing, monitoring and controlling is highly essential to manage all these huge activities. So from these early practices, what we have learned? In summary, we can say that management practices was hidden inside the practices. Someone obviously was a manager at the time, but there was not any formal appointment there. These manager practices all the jobs, but no written practices anywhere. These managers would need help from the theories to guide them in running these large organizations, but it was not until the early 1900th century, however, that the first step toward developing such theories. And at the next we will see how the approaches chronologically developed in the management academy. Now it's time to discuss about approaches to management. Here is the major approaches to management is shown in the slide. In the slide, we see the flow chart. The approaches divided into 4 basic levels after the historical development. At the beginning, informal management practices is shown under 3 categorical segments, like early example of management, contribution of Adam Smith, and under industrial revolution. At the next, classical approach shown under 2 segments, like scientific management and general administrative theory. Following the classical approach, behavioral approach took place. More details we will discuss in the later part about this behavioral approach. Quantitative approach immediately after the behavioral approach is shown here under 3 segments, like early advocates, ortho studies, and organizational behavior. Finally, contemporary approaches appeared, including system approach and contingency approach. So that's all about the details of major approaches to management. Now you will discuss one by one. Classical approach. The duration is 1911 to 1947. The formal study of management began early in the 20th century. These studies of management often called classical approach. It emphasized rationality and making organizations and workers as efficient as possible. 2 major theories compose the classical approach: scientific management and general administrative theory. The 2 most important contributors to scientific management theory were F.W. Taylor and the couple team of Frank and Lillian Gilbert. On the other hand, general administrative theory were contributed by Henry Fayol and Max Weber. So let's take a look at each of these important figures in the management history. Scientific management. If you look when the modern management theory was born, 1911 might be a good choice. That was when Frederick Winslow Taylor's Principles of Scientific Management was published. Taylor's book described the theory of scientific management, the use of scientific methods to define one best way for a job to be done. For this contribution, Frederick Winslow Taylor is known as father of management. As a mechanical engineer, he was continuously shocked by workers' inefficiencies. Employees used vastly different techniques to do the same job. They often took it easy on the job, and Taylor believed that the workers' output are only about 1/3 of what was possible. Virtually no work standards exist at the time, and workers were placed in jobs with little or no concern for matching their abilities. Taylor set out remedy that by applying the scientific methods to the shop floor jobs. He spent more than 2 decades passionately pursuing the one best way for such jobs to be done. Finally, Taylor proposed 4 principles based on his analysis. Number 1, develop a science for each element of an individual's work to replace the old rule of thumb method. Scientifically select and then train, teach, and develop the worker. Third, heartily cooperate with the workers to ensure that all work is done in accordance with the principles of the science that has been developed. And finally, divide the work and responsibility almost equally between management and the workers. Management does all work for which it is better suited than the workers. So these all are the contribution of the F.W. Taylor through scientific management. Now we will see how a manager can apply scientific management, or how the learnings of the scientific management could be applied by the manager. So here is again same four things. Scientific management highly suitable for the line manager. So this is very important. We know that there is three levels of management: top level, mid level, and lower level or line manager. And this scientific management is highly suitable for increasing the efficiency of the line manager. Organization required to recruit the best qualified workers to apply the scientific management, because scientific management is very important and very innovative practices. So if the workers are less qualified, it will be tough for them to follow the principle. And there should appropriate design of incentive system based on the output, so that people are motivated to work. And there should be elimination of wasted motion. The practices that waste the time, that should be eliminated from the process. So that all of the learning for the managers from the scientific management. Now it's time to discuss about general administrative theory. General administrative theory mostly focused on what managers do and what constitute good management practices. Under the general administrative theory, we see two renowned authors named as Fayol and Max Weber contributed here. So Henry Fayol identified the functions that managers perform, like planning, organizing, commanding, coordinating, and controlling. He believed that the practices of management was distinct from other organizational functions. Like there are so many functions, so management is different from all. If management is going well, other activities will also be going well. Henry Fayol also developed 14 principles of management that applied to all organizational situations. Now we will see the 14 principles. Here is the 14 principles, 1 to 14. We will discuss one by one. Division of the work. Division of work means work specialization that increase output by making employees more efficient. Authority means ability to take decisions. So manager must be able to give orders, and authority gives them that right. Discipline. Employees must obey and respect the rules that govern the organizations. This is also very important. Unity of command. It means that every employee should receive orders from only one supervisor. If there is more than one supervisor, it will make the confusion among the workers whom they will follow. Unity of direction. The organization should have a single plan of action to guide managers and the workers. That means all the managers and workers will run their activities to achieve the same goals. Subordination of individual interest to the general interest. The interest of any one employee or group of employees should not take precedence over the organizational interest. That means everybody will work to achieve the organizational goals, and they will leave their individual goals. Remuneration. Worker must be paid a fair wages for their services. Then number 8, centralization. The term refers to the degree to which subordinates are involved in decision making. That means all the decisions come from one point. Scalar chain, the line of authority from the top management to the lowest ranks at the scalar chain. It means that there should be a clear line from which the information will flow. Generally from top to bottom, we see the information is flowed, order is flowed, and the feedback also come from the lower level. Order. People and materials should be in the right place at the right time. Equity, managers should be kind and fair to their subordinate. There should be no discrimination for allocating responsibilities, for allocating resources, for the remuneration. Stability of tenure of the personnel. Management should provide orderly personnel planning that ensure replacement are available to fill the vacancies. So who will join, when they will leave from the organization, everything should be clearly defined. Initiative. Employees allowed to originate and carry out plans that will exert high level of effort. That means manager shall given the opportunity to take the initiative. Esprit de corps. It means promoting the team spirit that will build harmony and unity within the organization. So that are the all 14 principles that are addressed by the Henry Fayol. Now it's time to discuss about Max Weber. This name is pronounced as a Weber. We can also see or hear as a Max Weber. So whatever it is, Max Weber developed the authority based on ideal type of organizations. He introduced about the bureaucracy. So Max Weber is the another influential contributor for general administrative theory. He developed a theory of authority based on an ideal type of the organizations, which is named as bureaucracy. Weber mostly emphasized on rationality, predictability, impersonality, technical competencies, and authoritarianism. All the fact are the features of the bureaucratic structure. So here is the bureaucratic structure that is offered by the Weber. There is two circle of this structure. At the inner circle, the features of bureaucracy is addressed, and the outer circle, the clarification of each features is attached. From the inner circle, we see that the basic features of the bureaucracy, like authoritarian hierarchy, formal selection, formal rules and regulation, impersonality, career orientation, and division of labor. So these all features combinedly produce the bureaucratic structure of the organization. So how today's manager use the general administrative theory? By this time we have seen two major contributions by Fayol and Weber. So how manager could apply or can apply the learning from these two theories? Management could apply Fayol's 14 principle at all levels of the management to improve the managerial efficiencies, either for the top level, mid level, or lower level. For all level, it is applicable to improve the efficiency. For the case of Weber bureaucracy is the prototype for the organization. It's highly suitable for the large organization. But for the small organizations, bureaucracy limits the employee's creativity. So the use of bureaucracy, especially in a small organization, shall be careful enough to mobilize the efficiency and effectiveness. So that's all about our discussion on part 1. In the summary, we have discussed about early management or historical background of the management, classical approach like scientific management, and general administrative theory. And under the general administrative theory, we have discussed about two issues, Fayol's principles and Max Weber's bureaucracy. So that's all about part 1. Thank you for your attention.